Askreddit thread. What is something someone said that changed your way of thinking forever? No. What changed your way of thinking temporarily? I mean, the forever at the end is totally necessary. I'm a software engineer and tend to do my best when I am around people that are better than me. This quote has always stuck with me, and I make a lot of decisions with it in mind. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. When I was 12, I was criticizing someone's project in shop class. A girl came up to me and told me very calmly, "You're always criticizing people. Why are you so mean?" It was a very simple thing to say, but it hit me hard while my personality was still developing. I think her neutral tone was important too. Something clicked, and I realized she was right. I was kind of an asshole. It changed the way I behaved forever. I guarantee she does not remember that exchange, or even me at all. Sometimes it doesn't have to be something poetically profound, just something true said with honesty at the right time of your life. We judge ourselves by our intentions, but others by their actions. This put a lot of things into perspective for me. Do you feel victory when your words cause pain? I grew up in an abusive environment, and I left it, but it took years for me to leave the actions I'd learned behind as well. I wasn't a good person because I had no example. Being good people is all I want to be. An amateur practices until he can play it correctly. A professional practices until he can't play it incorrectly. I've heard it the other way. Like, an amateur practices until they get it right. A professional practices until they can't get it wrong. I've never had gold before. Now, blah, blah, blah. Similarly, the master has failed more times than the beginner has tried. It was an offhanded comment from a friend to me to get to play chess with him, and it stuck with me. If it takes less than 5 minutes, just do it now. Well, I guess I could masturbate again. That is actually a really good one. This is very important when it comes to dishes. Just do your fucking dishes when you make them, and you don't have to do a giant job at the end of the day. God, I messed up all my words today. This is how I do dishes. How you live each day is how you live your life. Simplistic, I know. Up until the point that I heard that from a friend, I had all these awesome ideas of who I was going to be, and what I wanted to do. But hearing this made me realize I wasn't going to be or do any of the things I thought unless I started living them each day. When you are torn between two choices, always pick the one that will make the best story. Grandpa always said that one, and once I started following it, life became a lot more interesting. I like that too. And that's how Grandpa stopped being a mediocre painter and started a new German empire, kids. If you don't have time to do it right, you must have time to do it over. A sergeant of mine in the Marine Corps once told me, no matter how big the plate in front of you is, the only way to finish it is one bite at a time. It's amazing how many times over the years I've had to remind myself of this great piece of advice. My brother was battling cancer and had bone marrow transplant. He would have to come spend 2 months with me because the town he was getting treatment in didn't have a hospital that did the procedure. I was fresh out of college, living in what was essentially a bachelor pad. We had regular at the restaurant I was working at, Dr. J, who always asked about my brother's progression. When I told him about the next step, he stopped me mid-sentence and says to me, "Your family is staying with me." He insisted because he lived out in the country, on a lake, and it would be very peaceful, refusing any sort of compensation. Not to mention my mom and brother would have privacy because they would be staying in the mother-in-law's suite. That was separate from the home. That's a good way to... That's actually a genius idea, the mother-in-law suite. It's a good name for it, too. It brought tears to my eyes, and I couldn't stop thanking him. Dr. J then says to me, "There's no need to thank me. It's an honor to do good." The words will ring with me forever. That man and his wife are some of the most caring and altruistic humans I know. As a teenager, I started pouting after a coach yelled at me. He looked at me and said, "The time to worry is when I quit yelling at you, because that means I've decided you're not worth the effort." I've got older colleagues in my IT job who said something similar. He's known for being quite a harsh joker anyway, but there was one time he had just finished joking about a release I'd put out, and said something along the lines, "If I actually thought you and your code weren't any good, I wouldn't say anything." That's how bad commitments get in. We have a guy at my current job who, before a new set of senior guys came in, was given free rein because everyone was exasperated with trying to show him where he was going wrong. Now he won't take advice on boards because this is how it's always been. It was a comment I saw on Reddit a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something along the lines of how parents raise good children, but should instead be raising good adults. The thought blew my mind and really got me thinking. Let kids be kids, let them screw up occasionally, and let them be sad every now and then. They're only preparing themselves for the real world, and will be ready to face it when the time comes. Most parents do a great job raising good children, and when those kids grow up, they're clueless how to handle real-world problems. Wish I had a link to the comment to credit the user that posted the blah blah blah. This reminds me of a quote from the Terry Pratchett book, Hogsfiler, which is, after all, what was the point of teaching children to be children? They were naturally good at it. Kids don't need to be taught how to be kids. They're born knowing. What they need to be taught is how to be respectable adults. It doesn't take talent to practice. Also, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But when talent works hard, you're fucked. So true. Sometimes talent can half-ass it and still beat hard work. That's also very true. I know that from first-hand experience. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I just remember in football, it was a lot of hard work, but I hated doing it, so I half-assed everything. I still started over a lot of people who worked a lot harder than me, because I was just a lot better. But I mean, if I didn't do any work at all, I'd probably still play over them just because I was just really good. Or similarly, 90% of talent is an interest. If you aren't interested in something, you'll never be good at it. Interest and talent are actually more like feedback loops. We enjoy doing the things we're good at, and thus get better at them. I've said this before on here. I used to do martial arts and was woefully average in ability. But I've beaten a fair number of far more talented artists because they just didn't put in the practice time. I did have one guy get embarrassed by it because I did in front of a lot of people. He knuckled down hard and beat me fairly handily in about 6 months worth of time. Also in front of a lot of those same people. Is your name Rock Lee? My wife was the first person to tell me that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It gets attributed to a number of people who probably didn't say it, but it really hits home when she was the one who told me. It reminds me of the quote by Buddha. Holding on to anger is like holding on to a piece of hot coal preparing to throw it at someone. You're the one who gets burned. Just to clear up any confusion, it was I who said it first. I was in San Francisco on a school trip, and I went out of our hostel for a cigarette. I was going through some shit at the time, and I wasn't handling it well. A homeless man came up and asked for a cig, so I gave him one, and he sat and smoked with me. He asked what was bothering me, so I told him I was having trouble with my girlfriend, but I was okay, and he told me something I'd never forget. Son, stop pretending you're okay. You're not okay. Sometimes in life shit happens, and you won't be okay, but that's okay. Really resonated with me. Helped me come to terms with a lot of things in the years since. I was in McDonald's with my dad when I was around 10 years old. I remember him asking me to take the tray to the bin at the end, and I said, that's their job, someone else will do it. My dad said, someday you may have to do a job you don't particularly like, and that other people could make easier or more difficult for you. You'll wish they made it easier. He also said fat girls will always be more grateful. So you kind of have to take it and leave it with my pa. Similar experience, but I got the what kind of attitude? You'll be the one clearing the trays. Friend of mine dumped a girl for that. They got paid to do it. If you can dump someone after just several dates anyway. I don't know. I used to be at the place I worked at. One of the positions I had was like to clean the tables after people, because we also had like a kitchen attached. I don't know. It was like overpriced food, but people bought all the time anyway. And a lot of people would throw away stuff after themselves. Some people wouldn't. And if more people didn't, it would actually give me more to do, because That was like the most boring part of the job, was just walking around trying to clean up shit, but the place is always clean, and people always picked up after themselves. It's like, you know, if you left those things there, I could, like, procrastinate. Not procrastinate, because there's literally nothing else to do. Because I could take my time and actually do something instead of just walking around the place for another 10 times looking for something to clean because they don't let you do anything else. Or, you know, wait for the... I don't know. I would just go around and talk to people anyway. But, I mean, I didn't really mind cleaning up the stuff and people left it behind. That's why I don't really get this sentiment. Like, yeah, they get paid to do it, but they probably don't care, because I know I didn't. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is not. It actually saw a sign in my gym that was similar and incredibly helpful. Motivation is what gets you in the door. Habits are what make you stay. Or something like that. See, that's a better one. Turning something into a habit is a way better way than being motivated all the time. Whatever crawls up his ass won't give me a bellyache. My granddad allows me to distance myself from other people's drama. I remember seeing this guy going above and beyond all the time, always going the extra mile. I asked him why, and he said something kind of cryptic, but it blew me away at the time. To do what ought to be done, but would not have been done unless I did. I thought to be my duty. Now that I'm a father, I'm saying this shit to myself every day. That sounds pretentious. Never make fun of someone for things they can't change. Never make fun of someone's laugh, or soon you won't hear them laugh at all. I experienced this at my old job. There was a woman who had a funny sounding laugh, and we all used to imitate it. It was actually very endearing quality and added a lot of life to the environment, but it made her self-conscious and she stopped laughing almost altogether. I always hated that that happened. If you want to be good at something, you must first be willing to be bad at it. My guitar teacher said this to me after I expressed that I felt like giving up because I wasn't making the progress I thought I should be making. It made a lot of sense to me, and it helped motivate me whenever I attempt something new. To those who have asked, yes, I still play some. I'm still not that great, but I enjoy it. And I'm better than I'd be if I had quit. Sucking at something is the first step to being sort of good at something. If your ball is too big for your mouth, it's not yours. That is good wisdom. Everyone is the main character of their life. Now I stop and think whenever someone is being self-absorbed. It's just they're excited over something that happened in their lives because that's what's most important to them. A similar one. No one thinks of themselves or their No one thinks of themselves or their motives as evil. Very important when writing antagonists in fiction. Everyone is the hero of their own story. Yeah, that's actually really good. Some of us wear the villain label with pride, because they want to rebel against the norms, because it's harder, more rewarding road to travel, or because being a hero often means so very little. But few people really want to see themselves as being bad or evil, whatever label they wear. I've done things I regret, I've done things I'm proud of, and I've walked the roads in between. The sliding scale is a fantasy, there's no simple answers. Taylor from Worm. Let's see, I was worried about being a bad father. Then someone told me a bad father wouldn't worry about being a bad father. Blew all my doubts away in a microsecond. So you stopped worrying. Bad dad confirmed. Sounds cliche. Sounds cliche and stupid, but don't let anyone or anything live in your heart, live in your head for rent-free. Heard that on my first day into drug treatment. Almost have 2 years sober. What? There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow human. True nobility is being superior to your former self. My old biology teacher told me, don't judge a book by its cover, but be careful about the library it's in. Basically, a good judge of character is the people the other person hangs out with. Still get to know them, hence the don't judge a book by its cover bit. But at the same time, watch out for the social habits they have. If they hang around shitty people and do shitty things, they aren't the best fit for you. Every job has stuff in it you hate. The question is really if the stuff you love about the job outweighs the parts you don't like. At the time, I was feeling guilty because I was in a patch where I was having a rough time with my job, which is a competitive dream job, so I felt like I didn't have the right to complain and felt guilty for not liking that part of it. but she reminded me it's okay to not like the things and remember why I wanted this job in the first place. Let's see. The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. Stephanie McCrane. Saw it first on Reddit and it stuck with me. On the same note, this little story. A novice asked Master Bonzen, "What separates the monk from the master?" Bonzen replied, 10,000 mistakes. The novice, not understanding, sought to avoid all error. An about observed and brought the novice to Bonzen for correction. Bonzen explained, "I have made 10,000 mistakes. Suko has made 10,000 mistakes. The patriarchs of open source have each made 10,000 mistakes." Asked the novice, "What of the old monk who labors in the cubicle next to mine? Surely he has made 10,000 mistakes." Bonzen shook his head. 10 mistakes. 1,000 times each. What? I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. So if I just keep playing Wonderfall. After my 6-year relationship ended, I felt lost. I felt like the future I had planned out, children, home, etc., were all lost. I was devastated. Then my cousin told me, "Sounds like you're more upset about losing your future than you are of losing him. You can't expect someone to take care of you. Only you can take care of you." I stuck to that mentality for years after that. I was once in a relationship for about 5 years, so I feel you, friend. I'd like to add to that quote, "You're only lost to the future you planned, which never existed in the first place, so in essence you've lost nothing. Now you make new plans." Sun Tzu teaches you that you must be able to willingly adapt to any given station. Seriously, a Sun Tzu quote here. Do not only have a plan, have many with many parts, which can be changed and you will never fail. Losing a planned future is like having your debit card decline at the gas station. You now have the opportunity to create an entirely new future. God, that's a whole bunch of pseudo bullshit. Not all your friends need to be forever friends. Some people are just meant to be your friends for the particular time in your life. What do you call a guy who asks 100 girls out before getting a date? A guy with a date. As a young teenager, it opened my eyes to the idea that no one cares how many times you fail at something as long as you finally succeed. It got me to be less nervous talking to girls and strangers, more willing to submit job applications even when I didn't think I was qualified, and more willing to take on large obstacles in life, even if I didn't initially think I could accomplish them. See, this is the right approach to have. It's also more commonly known as the shotgun approach. As long as one of the pellets hit, you're good to go. I learned this the hard way after I got my graduate degree. In academia, there was a constant filtering of smarter and dumber. In academia life, it was one test after another, and most are one try and done. In industry and design, I felt like my coworker was dumber than I. Maybe he was in academia sense. And maybe my initial design was better. But after 3 months, he failed and redesigned 1,200 times, and came up with a superior design. I was so proud of my design that wouldn't let go of certain things I had stuck on stupid aspects after they made no sense. Being smarter didn't matter. Months of my work went down the toilet because I wasn't willing to fail. Some doors are closed for a reason. Completely changed my life. I used to always be up in everyone's business, inviting them to share. Do you want to talk about it? Even pressuring them when they didn't feel like it. After all, I believed if you talk about it, you'll feel better. Truth is, people need to be able to control who they discuss their problems with and choose their own time for it, / when they discuss it with others. And the last thing they need is some asshole encouraging them to open up. Get off their backs. If they're not sharing their problems with you, assume there's a damn good reason and let it go. If they need you, they will find you. Another truth is, learn this from a psychologist, sometimes people just need to stop talking about their problems and move on with their lives. Not everything has closure. You don't make peace with every tragedy. Happiness is not waiting for you if only you can come to terms with your childhood or some tragedy. Some mental wounds are like physical wounds. If you keep picking at the scab, they will never heal. Time heals most things, but you have to let it. That's good advice. Also, there is an insight fallacy, the belief that understanding a problem will change it. Not necessarily true. We can get stuck trying to help people get to the bottom of their issues without realizing that it might not make a difference anyway. Met this cool Italian guy going to an AC/DC concert on a plane once, and we started talking for a while. Once we landed and we knew we wouldn't see each other again, he just said, "Hey man, have a good life." Just stuck with me and thought to myself, you know what? I will, and have been better ever since. What a simple sentence from a stranger. Those kinds of meetings are the ones that leave a mark in your life. Great perception from you. You are far more worried about what you say and do than anyone else is. Edit to a point. I put this as it was said to me. I didn't mean it to be applicable to everyone, especially politicians and Donald Trump. Tell that to everyone I threw up on in college. A ship in port is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. Think about whenever I feel like staying in my comfort zone. Smooth seas never make a skilled sailor. That's similar. I've seen it on Reddit. Death is only the end if you think the story is about you. I find it comforting for whatever reason. You will meet people that see a lot more in you than you see in yourself. It's crazy and kind of unbelievable, but that's what love is. It's from a deleted Reddit account. After my wife left me, I had an older coworker tell me something like this. Nothing I can say to you is going to make things easier or help you get through this, but just know that I am here to listen if you decide you would like to talk. I was so weighed down with friends and family who loved me, giving me unsolicited advice when all I needed was someone who respected me enough to just listen. I always take this approach with people who are going through hard times. If you truly care about them, just listen. Eventually they will ask for advice. More people need to do this. What a difference, being heard versus being talked to. When my dog passed, my grandma told me pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. At first I thought that was a pessimistic view, this was, but over time I began to recognize the mental fortitude and optimism it contained. I have a rugby hat that says that. Sorry for your loss. This is what my username is named after. When my parents first met my dad, it took my mom out every Friday night and would look forward to Fridays all week long because of it. Years ago, when I was down about something, he told me about how he was in a rut until he found what made him happy, and that was all the Fridays he spent with my mother. He told me to find my Friday. Find what makes you happy and go after it. So that's what I do. I try to better myself and really focus on the things and people that make me happy. If you can't explain it, you don't know it. This has fucked me up for a long time. I don't say much because I end up doubting myself. Every person sees the world in a unique way. When someone dies, it is, in a way, the death of an entire world. Get busy living or get busy dying. That one got me sober. 7 years and counting. Brooks was here. The only time you look in your neighbor's bowl is to make sure that they have enough. You don't look in your neighbor's bowl to see if you have as much as them. When I was telling my friend of mine that I have a hard time believing that people can like me, since I don't like myself, she told me, "We don't see you the way you see yourself. I know that depression alters the way I see the world, and that I see myself not as I should, but hearing that from someone else that actually cares about me really made it real. It's my go-to quote now when I struggle. It made me realize that sometimes I just need to change my perspective." Sorry for rambling so much. I never know how to stop or put anything into words. That's not a lot of rambling. It's not even a lot. It probably took you a long time to write all that, but that's not a lot to read. I used to work in this mail factory when I was a teenager, and, like any teenager, would sometimes frantically struggle to accomplish the most menial task. Enter the quiet, huge, gold-chain dude from Trinidad. "Look, Mon, you have to make work easy. All you have to do, Mon, just make work easy." Really simple, profound advice that has really helped me in every job I've ever had. Simplify your task and you can do it better and faster. An older black guy said to me in my teens once, "When you get mad, don't nobody give a fuck but you." That's a good one. My crazy German hippie godfather once sat me down when I was an angsty, self-destructing teen and said, "Look, Kate, I love you and will always be here to help pick you up if..." Okay, let me try this again. "Look, Kate, I love you and I always will. Always be here. God damn it. Look, Kate, I love you, and I will always be here to help you pick up the pieces. But Jesus fuck, does there need to be so many pieces? My father told me similar when I was in the midst of a lot of self-destructive behavior. Although was perhaps a bit more blunt. I will always love you, always. But that doesn't mean I like the person you have become. I think about that a lot. My dad's version of this is I will always love you, but I don't have to like you. I was 34, with few skills, 3 young children, and just finalizing a divorce. When I was discussing what to do with my future, my friend suggested that I return to school, possibly to study my newfound passion for geology. My response was, yeah, but I'll be 40 by the time I graduated. Her life-changing response was, you'll be 40 anyway. Now I'm 42 and 3 semesters away from completing my 3rd and last degree. Damn, that's a lot of school. As a 32-year-old, look at going back and been really apprehensive about it. This helps a lot. Oh, that's a good way to do it. You'll be 40 anyway. I was 6 or 7 living in Norway. The fire hydrants that were squarish and not red. I said they were stupid. My dad told me, no, they're not stupid, just different. Stuck with me to this day. I'm 37. I consider it one of the most important lessons I've ever learned. I was in my early 20s and driving across some barren portions of the U.S. The only radio station I could get was broadcasting religious programming. It was better than silence, but just barely. One preacher was begging for money to help homeless girls. When a caller asked him about the danger of working at a shelter with atheists, his answer changed my life. I will work with anyone doing God's work, no matter what their reasons, as long as they are doing so. If they deviate, then I will no longer help. But until then, we're on the same team. A decade later, when Hurricane Andrew leveled Homestead, Florida, I think, 30 miles from where I lived, the atheists volunteered with a church group to get supplies where they were needed. They didn't judge who they helped, and neither did I. Eating a shitload may feel good in the moment, but take a look at how goddamn fat you are. Everyone else was too nice and kept telling me I looked fine despite being 250 pounds. Holy shit, at 15. Yep, I asked for feedback on my OkCupid profile once, and some internet stranger just said, "You are fat and it is a problem." I lost 80 pounds the next year, and though it stung in the moment, I owe it to that person. My uncle sat down with me one day and said, "You only get one shot at life. There's no way knowing if this or that decision would take you through a route you'd enjoy. You can't load up your life from a point and try different things. The place you're right now is both the best and the worst place. It's you who decides and makes it if it's one more than the other." Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. People aren't mean, they're dumb. Approach a situation from that angle and you're a lot less defensive. A lot more capable of understanding. That is actually kind of true. There are so many people who are just really dumb. I like to switch out stupidity with ignorance. I feel that it grasps the idea better. That works too. The person who cut you off in traffic today wasn't trying to intentionally make you angry. Maybe they just didn't see you, and that happens to all of us. Which is what the "I'm sorry" hand wave is for. I see the hand wave and I instantly forgive people. Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when we look back everything is different? C.S. Lewis. As I get older, the days get longer and the years get shorter. The years start coming and they don't stop coming. A greasy-looking guy in a trailer park in Canada once stumbled up to me drunk and high, wearing ripped track pants, and he said, "We can't call people without wings angels, so we call them friends." And then he stumbled off saying something like, "Gonna get drunk as fuck," and I never saw him again. Holy shit, this video's long. Bob Ross, when I was still a child. I was at my grandmother's house and she had the PBS on 24/7. So here I am, 5 to 7 years old or so, watching the winter painting, kinda bored, wish there were some cartoons on. Then he adds a single tree to his scene. It's a winter scene, so it's barren. And he makes a little comment, something like, "And maybe it's a dead tree. Lots of people don't like adding dead things to their painting, but death is natural. It's okay." I may have I may be vastly misquoting him. I haven't seen this episode since 25 plus years. Point is, I hadn't really been acquainted with death as a concept up until then. Bob Ross was the first one to really talk to me about death. Now I consider myself an existentialist, and it doesn't really depress me. Death is a thing. Nothing you do is going to matter in 100 years, but it's okay. It's really more about enjoying your life. It's really more about enjoying the life you or have than, okay, so they did just write it wrong, than mourning the fact that you're not really anything in the grand scheme of things. And you don't have to make up stories about what happens after to alleviate the fear of being gone. Just, it's okay. You know, oddly, I think I have the same realization from watching the same episodes of Joy of Painting. As a kid, I loved the guy. He was so soft-spoken and mellow. I would try to draw the things he was painting. I remember an episode where he said that my Uncle Don had just died in his 40s, and though I did not know him well, it was my first experience with death. Everyone in my life was very religious. There was always this idea that God is running everything. My thought process was it made no sense to kill someone early when they were not bad people. Why would God do it? Bob Ross's statement made me consider the idea that all of us are just these finite blips. I eventually discovered science and physics. It became clear to me that programs that emerge but ultimately end. But we got to see the show. We got to be part of this bizarre painting of existence and pop from the quimt of blimp of immense improbability. It's cool I got to play this game. I'm cool with the game eventually ending. I'm subscribed to, I follow Bob Ross's painting thing on Twitch. I love Bob Ross. Also related to your philosophy, it's alright for nothing to be wrong. I actually have been trying to find out the handle of my own mortality. You sound like a good bit to me. The most memorable Bob quote is, if you are unhappy, you change it. Alright, that's it. This is half an hour. That's like the absolute max. I try to keep these videos under 20 minutes. And if they go above, I usually just, because I got into them, 30 minutes is the absolute max though. I'm going to stop even though there's a whole bunch more to read.